Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Zone by D'Antonio podcast. My name is Mike, and we're going to start today off with the way too early top 25. This is based off nothing in particular. It's just based off what teams are returning and the talent that they have on their team. Um, so let's start it off with Alabama. If I could have Alabama at 1 and just have blank spaces until number 10, and I put Clemson at number 10, but I can't do that, unfortunately. And so Alabama's going to be number 1. Talk about what they did in the national championship game. It was incredible. Tuvagoloa, or whatever his name is, from Hawaii. Boys, he's a great player. And now the question is Jalen Hurts going to transfer? And I feel like he will. He might go back home. He might go to Texas A&M possibly, or to another school in Texas. We're not sure about that. I think Texas A&M makes sense with Jimbo Fisher coming over, but not sure about that. But I think Saban's found his quarterback for the next couple of years. So I'll just say that right now. Comes in at number 2. They return a lot of defensive players. Kelly Bryant, most accurate quarterback in the ACC last season. They got a good team, and I think they'll be motivated next season to come back and have another good season. Dabo Sweeney's a top 3 coach in this league right now. Him and Urban Meyer battling out for number 2, as far as I'm concerned. Ohio State has a lot of turnover, but I put them at number 3 because just the talent they have coming back. And Dwayne Haskins, I think, he could have a big year. And I do think they were limited with JT Barrett at quarterback. JT Barrett was a great college quarterback, and he could run the ball all over the place. But there was a bit of a drop off from his freshman season on, and I do think his limitations showed in the college football playoff last year in that big loss to Clemson. Number 4 is Wisconsin. Wisconsin has a really, really good team. They got a really good coach. It's well coached. They got a tough schedule, not out of schedule. They got an easy out of schedule or easy out of conference schedule. They got a returning Heisman candidate in Jonathan Taylor. Alex Hornibrook, their quarterback, really played better as the year went on. He did have some turnover problems, but he looked incredible in that game against Miami. So I like Wisconsin a lot. They do have to replace some guys on defense, but when you look at their team, it's changing. It used to be just all seniors and juniors and experienced guys. They got some freshmen on their team and sophomores that have really made some great contributions for them. Danny Davis at wide receiver, he's going to be a good one. He's going to be a good wide receiver. I really like Wisconsin. Miami. So Miami, when you look at them, they had a tough end of the season. What did they start? 10-0 or 9-0, and they finished. They lost their last 3 games, including an embarrassing loss to Pitt on the road. I do think they'll have another. This is their year finally. And Malik Rozier coming back. I really like them a lot. They have probably one of the most talented rosters in the ACC and definitely in the country right now. Rozier comes back. He's a really good quarterback coming back with a year of experience. If he is the quarterback next year, we'll see what Mark Richt does. And the turnover chain always popular. And they were middle of the pack. It seemed like for offense and defense in the ACC this year. And I think they have the athletes coming back with another good recruiting class from Richt. Next year could be Miami's year. Oklahoma at number 6. Of course, it's almost impossible to replace a Heisman quarterback. But the one guy that probably can do that is Kyler Murray, transfer from Texas A&M. He's a really good runner. He can run the football and he can throw the football. And he's a small guy, kind of like Baker Mayfield. I'm not saying he's going to be Baker Mayfield, but I think he's got weapons around him. He's got a good young coach. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the playoff again next year. Georgia, they have some people to replace. Starts with their 2 running backs, Michelle and Chubb. DeAndre Swift's a good one. He is. And at quarterback, boy, did Jake Fromm show some balls in that game. Made some big throws. And also Justin Fields coming number 1 ranked recruit by ESPN. So Georgia's looking good right now. They could reload next year and contend for the SEC. And that gets now we get to my team, Michigan State. And I think this is Michigan State's year. I think this is Michigan State's year to possibly go to the playoff because everything is setting up well for them. Look at their schedule. They have Ohio State and Michigan at home, which is a big break. They do have to go to Penn State, and Penn State's a really good team. And, they're going to have to find ways to win games. Their offense in the Holiday Bowl looked explosive. I'm not sure if we're going to see that next year. They do have to go to Arizona State. Arizona State is a mess right now, so I think they'll win that game. Everything's setting up well for the Spartans. They did not get Wisconsin in there out of schedule or out of conference. They got Northwestern. They got at Purdue and at Nebraska. So three teams that aren't the greatest that you got. Now Northwestern's losing their top two guys, Thorson and Justin Jackson. So we'll see what they do. And I think Michigan State has a good shot to go not only to Indy, I think they have a good shot to go to the playoff next year. I'll get into that later. Penn State's got a good shot too. They got a really good quarterback, probably the best quarterback coming back to the Big Ten. And Trace McSorley, really good guy. He is losing his star running back, Saquon Barkley, and he's losing some guys on defense. But James Franklin's really gotten some good recruits in there. He's gotten some guys to buy into his philosophy, and I think they're here to reload. They're not here to rebuild. They're here to reload. Penn State is a contender for the playoff again. Stanford at number 10. Again, they've got some really good guys on their team. Starts with Bryce Love, the running back, if he comes back, which I think he might. I'm not sure if he will. This is maybe before he does declare or not. So I'm not sure about Stanford, but KJ Costello, what he showed at the end of this year was pretty good. I think he's a good quarterback. He might be the best quarterback in the Pac-12 next year. And David Shaw, one of the most underrated coaches in the country. All right, Washington, Jake Browning, coming back for, I believe it's his senior season. And Jake Browning is, he was a little inconsistent this season. He was a lot better 2 years ago when they made it to the playoff. And I do think Washington has a chance to make it to the playoff. And they do lose Vita Vea, their star defensive tackle, and they do possibly lose Myles Gaskin. He's still undecided whether to declare for the draft or not. So see about that. Auburn Jarrett Stidham decided to come back. They are losing Kerryon Johnson and Cameron Petway, their top two running backs. We'll see how they replace them. That'll be interesting. Notre Dame at number 13. Again, is it Brandon Wimbush or that Book kid? When Book came in the game for Notre Dame in the Citrus Bowl, he played very well. He did. And now the question for Coach Kelly is whether you're going to start Book in the first game against Michigan or whether you're going to start Wimbush. I think they have a bigger upside if they start Book. But Wimbush is the safe pick at quarterback because he has the experience of this year. And they also do lose Adams to the draft, their running back. So West Virginia is the hot pick this year. Everybody's picking them to go from a bowl loss to Utah, and it was kind of embarrassing the way they played against Utah to a top 15 team. And I'm in that bandwagon a bit. West Virginia could be the Oklahoma State of last season. Remember, Oklahoma State brought back a lot of weapons. West Virginia brings back Will Grier and David Sills. Sills, one of the best receivers in the country, and Will Grier, definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They could put on a show on offense. I really do think they can. So West Virginia, probably the second best team in the Big 12. Florida State at number 15. Florida State probably is the top 10 talent-wise, but we'll see how they come together this year after really struggling last season. Really struggling. And, it started early when their quarterback went out, Francois. I'm assuming he'll be back for the start of the season, and I do think he's a really, really good quarterback. One of the best in the ACC, I think. So with him coming back, I think Florida State has a good chance to be good next year with new head coach Willie Taggart, who is a good recruiter. I think Florida State's in good hands. Taggart, he had some good years with South Florida, went to Oregon and just left them dry basically. But that's a story for another day. LSU, this is a talent thing. It's really a talent ranking. They have a lot of talent there, and they've really had the same problems that they had with Wes Miles. They haven't been able to get that offense, that offensive, spark. It seemed like they let Matt Canada go after only one season, and they do get back their defensive coordinator Miranda, who was flirting with Texas A&M. But LSU, they're a locked top 25 team every year just because of their talent, and I am a little skeptical seeing what they're going to do. So, but they do have top 15 talent, and I just want to see what they do. Coach O, I'm still a little skeptical about him too. South Carolina, number 17. I like South Carolina. Not only because they beat Michigan, but I like South Carolina. They do have a good defense, and their coach is fiery. Offense, Jake Bentley, he did struggle at the end of last year, but he did have a good bowl game against Michigan. South Carolina, that could be a springboard for next season. I see them being a top 20 team. Texas at number 18. I think this is, we talk about coaches taking a second year leap. Look at Miami did that, and Georgia did that. I think they're one of the teams that could take that second year leap under Tom Herman if they start winning these one possession games. So I think they have a good chance, whether it's Ellinger or Bouchel at quarterback. Doesn't really matter to me. But it is important. It is important that they start winning one possession games. So Central Florida at number 19. They do lose a couple guys on the defensive side and a couple guys on the offensive side, and they do lose their head coach, but they are a top 20 team because they do have a very good quarterback, McKenzie Milton, and they were the national championships this year, or they were the national champions. But no, I think they're in good hands. I think they are going to be unanimous favorite for the American Championship title again this year. Texas Christian at 20. Again, they're going to be two guys battling out for the quarterback position. Gary Patterson, excellent coach. He's going to be playing defense in the Big 12, which is unheard of. But no, I think TCU has a chance to be one of the top teams in the Big 12 with West Virginia and maybe even Oklahoma. And we'll see how Oklahoma State does this year. Let's see how they rebuild. They are losing a lot of guys. Boise State, Brent Rippon, their quarterback, is back again for his junior season. Boise State's in good hands. Boise State, they have another 10-win season in them, I think. I think it could be a 12-win season, just based off how much experience they have. Number 22, I have the Wolverines, just based off their performance in the bowl game. They look soft out there. They look soft. They looked like they were shot from the beginning. Okay, I've never seen a team collapse like that in college football. Really, we saw it in the NFL last year, but we haven't seen it like this. So, Michigan number 22. If Shea Patterson is eligible, I might move them up a couple spots. But just the offense they ran, it was a high school offense. It was worse than a high school offense. Anybody could have called the game better than Michigan called it. So USC at number 23. Ronald Jones is gone. Sam Darnold is gone. It could be a bit of a long year and a rebuilding year for Clay Helton and USC. It was already a disappointing year this year, and it was a disappointing end of the year. But USC, they have a decent team coming back. Some good players. They do have good recruits coming in, so we'll see how USC does. We'll see if they turn into another good team. Miss State, they lost Dan Mullen this year, and I think they'll be fine this year. They'll be fine. They're a top 25 team. They've gotten recruits in there. A little disappointing end of the year, end of the regular season, but a really good bowl win over Louisville and Lamar Jackson, where they shut Lamar Jackson down. So, yep, Mr. State 24, UCLA 25. This is a trendy pick. Chip Kelly, might as well put him at 25. Why not? All right, so let's move on. The way too early call conference championship predictions. ACC, I got Clemson over Miami. Big Ten, how about Michigan State? I got Michigan State over Wisconsin. Big 12 championship game, I got Oklahoma over West Virginia in that one. Yeah, I think West Virginia will get there. I think West Virginia might beat Oklahoma the first time they face, but I think Oklahoma takes care of business in that one. SEC, Alabama over Georgia in the rematch of the national championship. And unlike this year, I do not think two SEC teams will get in, and I'll show that a bit later. Pac-12 champ, Washington over USC. The reason why I put Washington in here over Stanford is because Washington hosts Stanford this year. If they had to go to Stanford, maybe Stanford would be in there, but Washington, I think they got an experienced quarterback. I could see them back in contention again for another playoff spot, but we'll see. Way too early. Big Ten standings predictions. Let's go to the East. I like Michigan State's schedule a lot. I think they'll beat Ohio State and they'll beat Michigan and they'll lose to Penn State on the road. That's what my prediction is for them. Ohio State, their one loss will come in East Lansing. Penn State's two losses will come at home against Wisconsin and at Michigan. Will be Penn State's two losses this season, I believe. Michigan's four losses will be at Notre Dame to start the season, I think. At East Lansing against the Spartans. At Ohio State against the Buckeyes, and I think they'll lose at home against Wisconsin. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do. We'll see what happens there. Penn State, really top four teams in the East are good. I think the top three have separated themselves. Penn State, I think they'll beat Michigan State. They'll beat Michigan State at home. I think they're going to lose to Michigan on the road. And they're going to lose to Ohio State. So those are what I think is going to happen. And then Maryland gets to a bowl game, I say, and Indiana and Rutgers are 4-8. All right, let's go to the West. Wisconsin at 11-1, easy schedule. They do have to go to Michigan and to Penn State, and I do think they will beat Michigan on the road, and I do think they'll lose to Penn State, and that will be their one loss this season. Iowa 9-3, Minnesota 8-4. They can have a good improvement. Purdue at 7-5. Nebraska is 6-6. First under Scott Frost. I think it'll be a little bit harder for them this year because they're transitioning from a kind of a pro style Mike Riley offense to a spread option style that Scott Frost likes to run. But I think Nebraska will be pretty good in a couple of years. Northwestern has a lot to replace on offense. 4-8. Who knows? Pat Fitzgerald might pull out another 10-win season out of his hat. Who knows? And Illinois is just terrible. They have an improving defense with a lot of young guys. In a couple of years, they might be not only a bowl team, they could be contending. But Lovie Smith just bought himself another year. I don't know if he's going to buy himself another year this year. I don't know if Champagne's going to take another 2-10 season. We'll see. And way too early playoff prediction in the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State and Alabama, Orange Bowl, Michigan State and Clemson. That's right, I'm predicting two Big Ten teams will make the playoff next year. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you look at the standings before, we saw just how good the league is. And Ohio State's going to have some quality wins, including TCU, if the standings work out the way I said they do. And Michigan and Penn State, those are quality wins. Only loss would be at the Spartans. And I think the Spartans' only loss will be at Penn State, and they have the tiebreaker over Ohio State. So I like Michigan State to get in there. And I think they beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. Alabama, 1 seed. I think they'll take care of business over Ohio State. You know what? Might as well go out on a limb. I'll say Michigan State beats Clemson. Why not? Why not? I think Michigan State, Brian Lewerke's a really good quarterback. They got a good defense. Everybody's coming back experienced. And in the championship game, let's be real. I think Bama's talent will just shine over Michigan State's anything right now. I got Alabama 35-21 in the national championship. And that is my way, way, way too early playoff prediction. And the national championship is probably basically 1 year from today. So that was great. All right, that is going to be it for the Is Owned by D'Antonio podcast today. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and I will see you next time.